seemed like there was a lot kind of energy after the first period, and the second period happened where it was a lot of breakdowns. And we talked to Igor; he was pretty unhappy with the way we played in that second period as well.
I just think it's hockey. You know, it's such a game of momentum. The second period wasn't our best in a lot of ways. Give Philly credit; they played well in the second period. But what I loved was the response we had in the third, and just the resilience to be able to dig in and find a way to get it within striking distance. You know, we talked about just getting the next goal going out into the third period, and just having the ability to shrug it off and not allowing it to bleed into our game moving forward. I think that's such a huge part of a team's ability to have success, and it starts with a belief. We got to believe we can do it. I thought the guys did a great job. I couldn't be more proud of them for how hard they played in the third and in the overtime. You know, you look at the way the game was played. Our special teams, you know, you might have seen it at its worst and at its best throughout the course of the game. You know, both sides, the penalty kill and the power play, the first part of the game, neither one was a semblance of what we would like. But yet, when you look at the comeback, they're both an integral part of the difference. The power play gets the game tire, and the penalty kill, obviously, in overtime and the 4-on-3s was huge. And Shesty was a big part of that also. So, for me, that's what I'm proud of with the group.
Also, just the mental reset. You mentioned, like, you maybe saw the worst special teams and then you saw the best. So for them to be able to go out there, especially in overtime, and have the PK that they did, just what goes into that from just their mindset?
I just think it requires a certain mental toughness, you know, just the ability to shrug things off. You know, in a perfect world, we would like to go out and execute at our very best every time. But the reality of sports is that, you know, the human element is always in play. And, you know, you're going to have moments when you're at your best and it looks great, and you're going to have other moments when it's a struggle. And sometimes it's within the same game. You know, tonight was a perfect example. So for me, it's more about, you know, the resilience, the ability to shrug things off, and not allowing your emotions or your frustration or anything that might have happened in the prior period or the prior shift, allowing that to bleed into your performance moving forward. You know, we talk with the guys a lot about having a next shift mindset or a next play mindset, and just staying in the moment. And as long as we have that, I think, you know, you see what you saw in the third period. I think when we were able to get that third goal and get it within striking distance, it gave us some energy, it gave us some life, and quite honestly, it gave us some confidence. And so, like I said, I was so happy for the players, and proud of them for their ability to dig in there.
Can you recall ever having to kill 2 penalties in a regular season overtime?
No. I hope it never happens again.
Mike, it looks like a pretty big hit JT took. Where do things stand with him?
He's being evaluated right now for an upper body injury. I don't have the results yet.
With especially, you know, taking him out, obviously lose some firepower, but it's been a pretty good stretch now where you've had Artemi and Mika together. And Mika was just talking about it. In the past, it's kind of always been start and stop with them, never very consistent together. Do you feel like it's starting to look like they're forming some chemistry, starting to look more comfortable between the two of them?
I do. I think those guys have developed some chemistry. I think they've been driving a lot of offense when they've been in the lineup for the most part. And I think Mika has the ability to think the game on the same level as Brad, and I think he has the ability and the talent level to execute the plays in particular off the rush, because I think that's one of Brad's strengths, is just his ability to generate off the rush. And I think Mika can play that game. He also has a responsible game. He sees it pretty well defensively also, and I think that's an important element of that line. So, you know, we've been trying to stay with Mika and Brad, and trying to stay with JT and Troach, and see if we can build some chemistry with those pairs. And then there's been a little bit of a revolving door around that next player on those lines. Laff has spent a lot of time there with those guys, with Mika and Brett, but we've had a lot of guys moving in and out of, you know, playing with JT and with Troach. You know, tonight we started with Connor obviously we moved to Gabe in the second and the third period. You know, we liked Gabe's game. We thought he was playing really well. We thought we'd give it a shot. I had this conversation with you guys before the game, so it's probably nothing that you didn't expect. And when you saw it, I hope that's proof that I'm speaking the truth to you guys.
Mike, with the shrug it off mentality that you mentioned before, how did you evaluate Scott Morrow's game today? Obviously, that turnover he had in the second, but then he shows a lot of patience on the point in the power play game tying goal. You know, how he reacted to that.
Yeah, what I'll say is that he's an incredible kid, and his ability to shrug off some of the plays and continue to perform out there, I think, speaks volumes for the character of what he's about. You know, he's a young player, and he's going to make some mistakes. And you know, let's be honest. We're putting him in some really high profile positions, whether it be on the power play and overtime, things of that nature. He's playing a significant role here with this group right now, especially with Foxy being out. And so I think he's done a great job with just playing through the ups and the downs. And I think that's what you get when you deal with young players, especially defensemen, because I've said this to you guys all the time. I think it's the hardest position to play. But I'm so, I admire his resilience, because that would affect a lot of young players the wrong way. And when you watch Scotty play, if he makes a mistake, he shrugs it off. He learns from it. Him and Quinny usually have a conversation on the bench. Sometimes I might get involved with that conversation, but I try not to. And then he just moves by it and he moves on. And he'll become a better player because of these experiences that he's going through. But we couldn't be more proud of him for his ability to respond to those situations.